We're joined by our friend Larry Spanbauer here from the Oshkosh Memorabilia Club, here to tell us all about the annual Antique Appraisal Show. So Larry, without further ado, thank you very much for joining us today.
Seem to make it back here every year, so
yes.
It's a great thing to do before the venue of the show, and we always have a great time doing it. And I know the comments on the show, people seeing it, are always glad to have this segment on, and I've had calls already saying, geez, I haven't seen you on public television yet.
Well,
when's the show
are.
coming?
Yep.
So here we are. They'll
yes.
put their mind at rest, and we are having a show.
Perfect. So first of all, tell us when the show is.
The show is Saturday, April 2nd, so it's the Saturday after Easter this year. From 9 until 1:30 at the Senior Center again, Senior Center Annex, from 9 o'clock until 1:30. Okay. And we should again have 29 tables full of Oshkosh and Winnebago County memorabilia. So we'll have
Very
a
cool.
full gamut of things that were produced here in Oshkosh.
And I got to ask you first of all about all the goodies that you brought in here today so we don't run out of time, because you got some good stuff, a little bit of a preview for this show. Maybe you can start out with that really cool newspaper that you have there with all the pictures. What is that? Someone
had dropped this off at my home and thought it should be shown at the show, and it's a reprint. It was reprinted in the Shopogram in 1978, but it originally was put out in 1936, and it's who will be Oshkosh's first white bass queen. Everybody in Oshkosh knows that the white bass run from Lake Winnebago upriver and every spring. So coming out of the Depression, obviously they the merchants in Oshkosh decided to have a contest for the white bass queen. And if you bought 25 cents worth of merchandise at one of the participating merchants, you had one vote. If you spent $100, you could multiply that.
Oh my gosh.
So I would
awesome.
suspect some of that happened. And like I say, the ladies all look to be somewhere around 18 to 20 years old, which would make them 98 to 100 years old now. So it has to be someone's grandparent.
We got to track them down somehow.
Right. So
Very
come to
cool.
the show and take a look at the sheet, and maybe one of your relatives on there. There's 28 of them on there, so it's I'm sure they were all native Oshkosh at that time, so it was just a neat thing to pass on and to capture.
What a cool piece. And lots of cool things like that, newspapers, but also it's not just those kind of things. There's a lot of physical dishes, and I see we've got a milk bottle here.
We always had milk bottles, and it's unfortunate that this year one of our main participants, Jim Stutz, usually had 4, 5, 6 tables of Oshkosh dairy items, and he passed away last fall. So not only his collection, but the knowledge that he had, and he would help people that, we were a throwaway society in the 60s and the 70s. Nobody wanted this stuff. They grew up with it. It's been sitting around houses all the time, but sitting around mom's house and grandma's house, and it just got thrown out. And around the 1990s to year 2000, people started getting interest again in capturing their family heritage. And so Jim was very instrumental in finding milk bottles for some of these families and getting them back into the families. And that was really nice. And
very cool.
So we're going to miss that segment of the show this year. But bring your milk bottles in. There's some of us that can help. My father-in-law ran Guernsey Dairy, so I have a little knowledge too, and Jim and I worked together for the last 15 years on collecting dairy items.
Oh my gosh, so you know your stuff.
We do have some knowledge, and the picture showing right now is his display.
Okay, and so there's a lot of things that you can see. You mentioned that it is also an appraisal show, so if you have things that you want to bring in, you can bring them in.
If they're Oshkosh or Winnebago County, we can try and help you out with that. We have a pretty good knowledge of members of our club that cover the beer industry and the tavern industry and the milk industry. And last year I put together a book on the Oshkosh cigar industry, and I'll have a display there again on cigar boxes, probably 75 cigar boxes from Oshkosh.
That is so cool.
And so that's one of the unknown parts of Oshkosh history. Oshkosh banks and the banking industry, canceled checks from the early banks, the German American Bank and the Old Commercial National Bank, the Kellogg Bank. those things we have, actual banks.
A lot
from
of bank
these-
stuff. We got to actually today you brought a photo of the old bank as well as this cool plate, which is hard to see, but a really cool, is this a German plate?
They're a German plate. They came out with a lot of those things around the turn of the century, 1900, 1910. This one happens to be of the old post office, which was towards Main Street from the Oshkosh Public Museum Library.
Mm-hmm.
And it was torn down when the First National Bank building was built, or where the Savings and Loan is. But we have a gentleman that collects all those things. There's a lot of them that show up from the library, from different buildings in town, the Athearn Hotel and some of the monuments. So it's
Very
another
interesting.
piece of interesting history.
And it's a good chance to get some good Oshkosh history. I know a lot of people are very interested in history in general, but it's very rare that you're able to get a piece of such local stuff. And I think that's a great opportunity at this antique appraisal show.
And we as collectors, we always learn something.
Mm-hmm.
That someone comes in and gives us a piece of knowledge and that we weren't aware of before, and we share things. And some of the things in our displays, it happens just about every year. Someone will say, oh, my family was connected with that, and then they walk out with the pieces. And
Oh, how
so
cool.
we just donate them back to the families.
Yes. Before we close out the segment, if you want to recap once more for us the date, time, and location of the show this year.
So this is our 14th annual Antique Appraisal Show, and it's be at the Oshkosh Senior Center Annex on April 2nd from 9 until 1:30. And admission is free, so just if you have some things to bring in and you wonder what the price is, bring them in for us. Otherwise, we will just come in and look around and see what we have to offer.
Wonderful. Well, Larry, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, and thanks for coming in, and we'll see you out at the antique show.
We'll be there.
Oshkosh Today was supported in part by the Friends of OCM. And Aurora Healthcare, 855 Northwest Haven Drive. Set design provided by House of Flowers, 1920 Algoma Boulevard. Oshkosh Today.